Hi guys, welcome back to the Tuition Centre podcast. So today we're here with our maths expert, Eoghan O'Leary, and today we're going to be talking about problem solving in the Leaving Cert Maths course. So Eoghan is going to tell us a story first of all, and then he's going to talk us through the problem solving side of things and how to cope with it. So Eoghan, you're very welcome today.
Yeah, cheers now, thanks very much. Glad to be back again. Well, you talked about a story there, so I will tell a story, but maybe beforehand, just to set the context, like problem solving has been introduced since Project Maths came in 2012, 13, 14, it was kind of rolled in. And problem solving is worth half the marks in the Leaving Cert higher and ordinary level papers. And in the junior cycle exams, it's worth around the same as well when you look at the structure of the questions.
Yeah.
So it's a vitally important part. And the unusual thing is you spend the 8 years of primary school doing sums, basically, like what we all kind of remember, mental arithmetic, quick, snappy questions, and we all remember the students who were kind of good in school. It was because they were fast and accurate, in primary. That kind of continues on into secondary school. You're doing algebra, you're doing more skills, and it continues on into the Leaving Cert cycle. And what happens is, like, through all of fifth year and all of sixth years, I know myself, I'm teaching every day up in Hamilton High School. The pressure to get the course done is immense. So you're rushing through all these skills. But right at the end, with only a few months to go, you say, right, we better focus on problem solving. It's worth half the marks.
Yeah.
So you got 13 and a half years doing skills, and then you got a few months doing problem solving, and it's worth half the marks at the end. So with that in mind, it is very, very important. So what I try to get the students to do is kind of have the philosophy, the mindset that they're going to give it a go, right? So I suppose my catchphrase I always use and people quote back to me is like, if you don't know what to do, do what you know.
Yeah.
Which is like, do the first step, try something, and the first bit might tell you the second bit.
Yeah.
You go from there. But then I kind of, I put my hands up and say, look, in real life, you're doing this all the time. And like, I have very little aptitude for DIY, right? Amazingly little, right? And but we bought a house 10 years ago and it needed a lot of doing up. So after avoiding DIY for a long time, I had to get stuck in, right?
Yeah.
So the first job was to put gates on the house because it's a busy road outside. So I rang this crowd up in Clonakilty out the road. I looked at the brochure and said, hello, I'd like to buy some farmhouse gates. That's what they were called, right?
Yeah.
So your man says, no problem. He says, what's the OPE?
You tell me. Yeah.
So I was looking out the window, saying, what is the OPE? I said, I'll check for what the OPE is, So I was looking out the window. I don't know, do you know what the OPE is?
No, not a clue.
I was looking out and saying, I don't really know what that means, right? So thankfully, a friend of mine, teacher up in Hampton High School as well, Declan, was a civil engineer before. So I rang Declan. I said, Declan, I'm buying gates. Your man says, what's the OPE? What's that mean? He goes, it's the opening. I said, oh yeah, that's fair enough, I suppose, That's kind of obvious, in hindsight, fair enough, the OPE is the opening. I said, why didn't they just call it the opening or the gap or, the width? Because everyone just knows the OPE is the opening. I said, do they? He goes, yeah, in the business.
Yeah, that's it. When you're on the outside looking in, it's completely.
So that's the lingo, he said.
Yeah.
So I said, oh great. Measuring tape, measured 13 foot, ran it down again, rang your man back and said, the OPE is 13 foot. He said, very good. He said, are the pillars plumb? So now I'm looking out the window again saying, are the pillars plumb? Right? Again, right? No idea. All sorts of thoughts going through my head. What the hell does that mean? I said, I'll just check. I check now, are those pillars plumb? Hang up the phone. So I ring Declan back and say, he's saying now, are the pillars plumb? Like, what does that mean? And he goes, like, are they like vertical to the ground,
Yeah.
I said, like, surely all
pillars are vertical, yeah.
Exactly, surely they're always plumb. Surely that's like job number one of building pillars, make them plumb. And he goes, is it on a slope? I said, it is, yeah. He said, they're probably not plumb, And I said, okay. I said, how do I check are they plumb? He goes, come on now, you're a maths teacher. You're just checking are two things parallel. So I said, okay, fair enough. Okay, I can do that. So there, hang up the phone, run back up. I knew the ope at the bottom was 13 foot, so the ope at the top was 12 and a half foot when I measured it, so they're leading in.
Okay, yeah.
So I run down, ring your man back and say, oh, it turns out they're not plumb. 13 foot at the bottom, 12 and a half foot at top. And the man goes, that's grand, I'll be there next week. But the point about it is, what I say to the students is, the skill was easy.
Yeah.
The procedure, what I had to do was measure twice.
Yeah.
The top and the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't know what the words meant. I didn't know the lingo, and I didn't want to ask.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask the guy I would never meet.
Yeah, yeah. And you could have saved yourself so much time.
Yeah, I didn't want to admit to this guy I didn't know that I didn't understand what he was talking about. So thankfully, I had a dictionary I could ask, right? But that's it. So many times it's that catches the students. It's the lingo. So they're looking at the words, and the words are not making sense.
Yeah, even though it's actually not even that difficult once it's explained out. Yeah, exactly.
And it could be the exact same thing. It could be if the Leaving Cert question said the ope between the pillars is 13 foot. You know, the pillars are not plumb. You know what I mean? Straight away, like, most students are going to be lost, except for the students who've heard those words before.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
So that brings you back then to 13 and a half years practicing skills and only a few months practicing problem solving. The key to it is practicing it. Yeah. But for so many teachers and then their students, you're just at the pin of your collar to get the course done. Yeah. So I focus, I would say, more than most teachers on the problem solving, knowing it's worth half the marks, knowing that you can get to the situation where the students are familiar with them, they know the terminology, they know the approaches to the questions. Yeah. And obviously you teach them skills of how to do it and how to get out of it if you're stuck, you know? Yeah. And that makes all the difference. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they go in and they don't have that situation where they're stuck at the start. Yeah. And in terms of then, like, for any student like listening, would you advise them maybe to just practice questions to get used to the terminology? Or is there, like, what's the best way, do you think, of approaching this kind of getting your head around problem solving and this whole kind of terminology and stuff like that? Well, I do have one magic bullet that even teachers now, when they hear this, they probably think, I never thought of doing that before, right? Yeah. So if we think of fifth years, but the same is true then in second years, right? But I'll describe it for fifth years. So what I do every year is I get the ordinary level Leaving Cert papers for my fifth years. And I've got, like, up in Hampton High School, I have fifth years now. Absolute brilliant class. You know, real hard workers, really smart. And I give them all the Leaving Cert ordinary level papers, and they're like, almost insulted, you know, by this. I said, we're going to practice every problem solving question inside here. Because the words, the terminology, the intro is very similar to what it is at higher. Okay. But it's not quite as dense, we'll say, the language. And then the maths is easier. Yeah. But by the time you practice all of those in fifth year, start to sixth year, then when you go back and you do the higher level version of the same question, it's a lot more approachable, I suppose. It's not as scary. Yeah. It's like you know what ope is, you know what plumb is, and now do the question, measure for the gates. Like it's all of a sudden it's like, what's the problem? Yeah, no, because there is that huge issue where students, like, they see a small, just a small question, but they build a mountain out of the molehill. Like, it could be something so simple, so basic, but it's just about knowing what you want to do with it and how to approach it. Yeah, and in last year's Leaving Cert paper 1, it happened, right? It was. The short questions were hard, and then the long questions, the language was just unusual. Yeah. And, like, you know, the stories from all around the country of people just walking out of the exam, you know, thrown up in the toilets, you know what I mean? And, like, I can understand it, like, you know what I mean? Panicking because they can't, they're, like, thinking their whole Leaving Cert is... It's crumbling, absolutely. Yeah, they're thinking, you know, I can't go to college now. So, you know, that's, you know, it was just a little bit more kind of confidence and competence in it, and it goes from being hard to being easy. Yeah. You know? So that's it. And in a nutshell, like, to answer your question, the key thing is practice. Yeah. So in terms of this free pre, which the information we can see here is on the 13th of April for paper 1 and the 20th of April for paper 2, and the links below will bring you straight to the website. Could you just talk very briefly on what's involved in that free pre and why students should sign up for it? Yep, sure. The free pre, as you said, the dates there, paper 1, 13th of April. and then paper 2 is the week later. So what we found, I suppose, teaching for nearly 20 years now, that the pre for Leaving Cert higher level maths in February in school and sometimes in January, it's just very early for maths. Perfect for the other subjects, but not great for maths. So we run a free pre at this stage of the year. And the beauty of this is, so it's free to everyone in the country. Like, more students will do this exam than do anything else except for the actual Leaving Cert itself, right? So it's a bit of an event on the day. Like, you have students everywhere, you know, teachers get their students to come in and, you know, all sorts, right? And the students cannot see this exam anywhere before the day. It's released to everyone at the same time, so you can't hear it from...
So it's like a real scenario almost of the Leaving Cert.
Exactly, so you can't hear it on the bus on the way
home.
There's
no leaks online or anything.
Totally, exactly. And what students find is, look, it's halfway between their school pre and the real exam, and it really gives them a great indication of where they are. You know, and then shows them crucially the last bits that need to be done to improve for the real thing. So everything looks exactly like a Leaving Cert paper. You know, they can print it out on the morning of the exam. They do it under exam conditions at home, and then there's a number of options. Then so we release the marking scheme on the day. I record all the videos. There's a guy named Hospuns that makes these PowerPoints, you know. So we go through everything, how to correct it, what the marking scheme looks like, you know, and through that process, the students learn a load about what they, you know, they'd often say, oh, I never knew that's how, you know, that's, you know, oh, like, you get high passing credit for that. Oh, God, I didn't realize I get 5 out of 15 for just writing that small bit at the start. So students learn a load from that process. And then they have options, and they can upload their results to a portal, and we get all these stats then we can share with students. And this year there is the option, if they want, they can send it to us to get it corrected properly as well. That's a paid service, but you know, that's an optional one for the students. But look, it's been going on for about 10 years now. Like, we used to have people come down here to Bandon, and they'd come from all over Cork and even outside of it to do this exam in person. But when COVID came along and everything, the world changed, like, we put it online. And so, you know, teachers will be telling their students sign up for this, you know. And like that, most of the Leaving Cert students in Ireland, higher level Leaving Cert maths, will do it.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much. And again, like I said, we'll leave the links below. Obviously the question isn't really why should you join us, why shouldn't you?
Exactly.
So thanks very much, and thanks again to Eoghan for today. So we'll have the links there to sign up below, and again, like I said, it's completely free to join and free to take part, and you can get your exam corrected if that's something you want to get done. So thanks a million.